Welcome to episode 3, part 3, our final segment on our discussion about race. Vivian couldn't join us this episode, but she'll be back next time.
Play, think, listen, learn. Play,
The
think,
plan you're
listen,
looking for is here.
listen, learn. Play,
One moment. Let me get my
listen,
phone set.
play,
I'm feeling
listen,
good.
play,
Hi,
listen,
we're here and we're a little
play,
weird.
think,
Can
listen,
I just say how
learn,
happy that
play,
makes my heart?
Think, listen, learn.
I've got a question for all of us to chew on for a moment. What do you wish that providers would ask you as coaches about how they can advance racial equity in their classrooms and programs?
Just that.
Same. I second that, Chris.
That's the question. Or yeah.
I wish that this was more of a forefront question that we were asked. It's, is as important as making sure you have developmentally appropriate play areas. We should have a developmentally appropriate environment to grow and learn in, and that includes a program that supports racial equity.
I would just add that it's getting a little harder to find such programs because diversification is happening most rapidly with our youngest society members, but it's still possible to find classrooms and family home programs that may be led or staffed mostly by white people, and that may mostly include white kids, and that's fine. But I would argue that doesn't get you off the hook about educating kids about race. In fact, it may make it even more imperative. Like it or not, and I think it's fantastic, the United States is becoming an ever more diverse society. That diversity should be viewed as the single most important element in the ability of the United States to continue transforming itself and becoming a model society. It's an opportunity, but it's also a challenge. And you're doing, as a white teacher or a white educator or a white caregiver, you're not doing white kids any favors by pretending that that as adults, they're going to be living in a society that's mostly or entirely white. That's flat out untrue. And so your obligation is to help them become better equipped to be citizens of a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multiracial society and world. How you do that might look a little bit different if you mostly have white kids in your program, but fundamentally it's still the same. You're taking those two tenets. We are all the same. We are all different, and through exposure, conversation, the kind of environment you're creating. We should stop using the word environment to just refer to physical environment. Physical environment is important. We could do entire podcasts about physical environment, but the physical aspect of your environment is only one aspect of it, and ultimately, the mental, emotional, and psychological aspects of environment might be even more important. And now, welcome to our lightning round. The rules are simple. We field questions from you, our listeners, that we take turns answering. And by the way, please send your questions to us, the Couch Coaching Quintet, at ccpodcast@childcare.org.
Mike, can you repeat that, please?
Sure. Please send your questions to us at letter C, podcast, ccpodcast@childcare.org. Those of us in the quintet are going to take turns being the moderator. The moderator will read a question. Time is precious. Each of the other 4 couch coaches, or today, other 3 couch coaches, must answer in 15 seconds or less. The entire answer period will end today will end after 45 seconds, and a rude noisemaker will silence coaches who try to exceed the allotted time.
It makes me laugh every time.
Adrian, you're first up.
I love this first question because I love children's books. And so and I'm going to break the rules and I'm going to answer this question as well. So what is your favorite children's book of yours touching on race, and why do you like it so much? And I love the series of books called Little Leaders. There's one that focuses on women and or boys, and there's one that focuses on women and another one that focuses on males, but they're by Vashti Harrison. And I love it because it's not all history. It is present day individuals who are living and making a difference and are leading today, in addition to people in the past. And I just love the art. Vashti Harrison's art is just beautiful.
Mine is Mixed, A Colorful Story by R.E. Chung. I love it because everybody starts out in Redville, Bluetown, Yellow Heights, and then it just doesn't make sense to live in that segregated life. So they're integrated. And it says, the new city was full of color. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. And I just love that message. And I love this book.
I'm going to go with same, but different. I think it's not as deep as some of the other books that have been mentioned already, but I think it's a good way for young kids to start connecting with other cultures and understanding that they do have some similarities.
I'm going with All Are Welcome by Alexandra Penfold and Suzanne Kaufman, a book that shows every imaginable and a few unimaginable kinds of diversity in a completely normalizing way. All are welcome. You all have a space here. And it's done in a way that makes it look like the way, I think it's my vision of the way the world should be. That different kinds of diversity are acknowledged, celebrated, and shared with one another and contribute to the richness of the whole. All right, I believe that you, Marie, are going to moderate for our second question.
That is correct. Our second question is, when is the best time to have discussions about race?
Mostly in the moment and starting really young and continuing on throughout our lives.
Agreed. Staying away from what we talked about earlier about making it a tourist attraction and tourist holidays, and only celebrating histories during a certain month. So let's get away from that and let's celebrate it every day.
I agree with everything. And as adults, for us to not freeze up and make it a conversation, not to show our own angst and anxiety that we might have. So kids don't pick up on that and think that they did something bad by asking questions.
Okay, and for our third and final lightning round, Chris, you have the honors of moderating.
All right, for our last question here, we have, I'm sorry, let me start that over. Okay, for our next question, we have, I get it with older kids, but I care for infants and toddlers. How do I even begin to talk with them about race?
I think it's more hands-on for them. You know, it's having materials, but it's more so the conversations and things that you expose them to.
Yes, I want to say exposure, exposure, exposure. And that ranges from the books that you're sharing with kids to the experiences you're providing them to the casual comments that you're making. You're making a lot of I statements and a lot of you statements, and you're enriching their understanding of the world through those I and you statements.
being mindful about all of the families, that you serve in that infant toddler age group, and seeing what pieces of their home life they would be willing to share. So even if this is a favorite song in one home, playing it for all of the infants that you care for is still exposing them to something new. So being mindful of that. And if you don't know where to start, just start with those people that you already have an established relationship that are enrolled in your care.
Thank you. Listeners, our topic for our next podcast will be media exposure and use. If you have a question for us related to this topic, or any other topic for that matter, please send it to ccpodcast@childcare.org.
Where?
Oh, all right. Please send it to ccpodcast. CC stands for childcare. ccpodcast@childcare.org. And thanks for listening.
CC stands for childcare or couch coaching?
Oh, well, we have a disagreement amongst our quintet. We will hash this over offline and try to come up with a definitive answer. And maybe there is none. Okay. Thanks for listening. And the CC podcast crew, your couch coaching quintet. I'm Mike.
I'm Adrian.
I'm Marie.
I'm Chris.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Couch Coaching. Bye.